What up, everybody? What's going on? I am Newbie the Ear Hustler. This is another episode of We Ear Hustling, baby. Tonight's guest is the legendary Black Ice. You don't know? You don't know who he is? Gene B, I see you. Great guest tonight. I'm excited to talk to him. This man has done so much. I don't think people really understand. Hey, Till, how you doing, baby? Murad, I see you. Thank you for joining. Yeah, this is going to be another great episode. I'm so looking forward to talking to Black Ice. I think this will be the second poet that I've had on my show. The first was Obi West, who's dope, amazing. Got to see him live in LA. Force of Wisdom, thank you for joining. And Ice is an OG in this. So when you start talking about poetry, poets, Black poets, spoken word, you name it, he's done it. So I'm excited. And he put out an album, and I don't think people really even understand that there aren't a lot of poets with albums out. And it was a while ago, but it's still there. GQ, I see you, brother. Thank you for joining. Yes. So excited to talk to this brother. I'm going to see if I can get him on in. If you bear with me a moment. Yeah. Okay. I have gone on and sent my invite. I hope everybody has had an amazing week. It is almost over. Shout out to Thursdays. Forget about Wednesdays. Thursday is the day, right? If any of you work 9 to 5, you know what it is. It's exhausting. It is exhausting. I see you, King. I'm about to bring you on in. Hey.
Hey,
How are you?
what's going down?
Man, listen, it has been a hell of a day. How was your day?
Oh, my day was cool. It was cool. I ain't never got no complaints.
Okay, all right.
You know, I try not to have too many complaints. People
Well,
leave at the best. People leave at the best parts. You know.
yeah, indeed. The Flow Assist has joined the building. Thank you so much, sis, for joining. Sir Nasty Hair Hippies, thank you for joining.
What's up, Matt?
Let everybody kind of get in a little bit, and I'm gonna fix this view here a little bit. All right. And Copper City, Miami, Fro Babies, thank you for joining, and thank you for the follow, sis. I appreciate you. So, first of all, I had to get into this. I started talking a little bit about it before you joined. I don't have any real recollection of too many poets putting albums out, and I'm just talking about that. Now we're gonna get into that, but I put up a flick and put some music behind it, and I was like, I gotta let the people know, you are not one-dimensional by any means.
I guess maybe, yeah. I do some things.
Yeah, just a little something.
I've done some things. You know, nothing new though.
No, but new to some.
Yeah, nothing new. But yeah, I'm not the new cat. I'm not the first, especially, when it comes to, albums and, especially now, now we are getting a surplus of beautiful work actually from poets. And, I would really, I don't want to, all of the poets that I know that are offering audible work now have been doing it. They've been putting the work in. So I don't ever want to give it credit to there being some type of hardware or award out, but now, Jay Ivy just dropped a new album, but his project, Poe who sat by the door last year won the Grammy.
Yes.
Emerald Green, you know, Queen Sheba, Amir Suleiman, and Robert Glasper put out a beautiful piece of work. Uh, you know, you will be someone's ancestor, act accordingly. Um, um, there's so many dope, Jessica Care Moore, obviously she's got poetry records, then she's got rock records. Ursula Rucker, who is constantly putting out material that people don't even really hear about, or because she's so earth, or people give credence to. So shout out to all my peers, Saul, Tongo out in the Bay Area, Prentice Powell, Chief the Poet, all my ATL poets, Abyss, Tommy Bottoms, Talam AC, we got a lot of, we got a lot of heavy talkers out there. So, and people are putting out really, real quality work right now.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. For me, and I think, I'm going to say the demographic that follows me, I'm not really sure that they're aware of all of that. And so for me, listening and doing some homework on you, and then it leading me down a rabbit hole, if you will, it exposed me to so many more poets, actually. And so I was grateful for that, because it opened my eyes a little bit in terms of how much stuff, like I said, initially I couldn't really recollect too many. And when you said Jay Ivy, I said, damn, how could I forget him? Because obviously the Grammy Award winning work that he just put out.
Cat's been putting in work,
Oh, no doubt.
And doing it. There's shout out to Obi West.
I talked about him.
Right. Obi West. Like I said, Sean Williams. There's so many. Joshua Bennett. There's so many. Shout out to Mahogany Brown. You're saying, living legend like this. So like I'm such a fan of all of these. Rebecca Dupas, K Love, Archie the Messenger. Lyrical. Like I'm such a fan of the art. I could sit back and like I'm a fan of the art, so I know, as much as I don't talk and I don't post and I'm not necessarily social media heavy, I love my craft. So I'm always studying. I'm always checking for the new voice. I'm always checking for new voices. I'm a fan. So and because of like Spotify and these, the internet, we can live in our own little bubbles. So my own little bubble be full of that,
Yes.
And now, the world, obviously now gets to, again, hopefully this new award being voted for and presented to by the Recording Academy now gets the masses' ears back tuned into what we do. Right? So we're going to do what we do regardless. But now, just like when Def Poetry was out, it tuned an ear that wasn't necessarily in tune to what we was doing. It tuned them in. So hopefully now this same thing happens with this Grammy and the other opportunities that come with something as sensationalized as that piece of hardware.
Well, you said it, that piece of hardware. So I wanna just set the room a little bit. There are more people joining. I am New the Ear Hustler. This is We Ear Hustling Baby. Tonight's guest is the legendary Black Ice, who has been on my mind, and getting him on here to talk to him. I talked to Obi West, and I was really moved by our conversation, and so I was looking forward to our conversation. We started engaging a few years back, started on Facebook, then I followed you here, and then I chased you down a little something. And then I said, okay, we're gonna get this going, and you hollered and you were ready. And so I want to just go ahead and jump right into it. You talked about hardware, right? And so you are a Tony, Emmy, Peabody Award winning. Like, talk to me about what that means to you in terms of us as Black people, how we're represented, how others view us. Talk to me a little bit about that.
I mean, in a fiscal sense, you know, in a business sense, obviously, to have a Tony, you know, a Peabody, a Emmy, to be able to say, oh, you know, I won those things. In a fiscal sense, you know, in certain arenas, it holds its weight.
Mm-hmm.
In other arenas, it don't hold no weight at all. You know, for me, and I remember talking to my son about this, and I was explaining it to, you know, to some writers, you know, a week or two ago, that every time somebody comes up to me, like in Kentucky, a brother came up to me, stop the foot traffic in the middle of the day in the downtown Kentucky. Like, there's a lot of foot traffic. There was a World Fair going on, and he stopped. He had his 2 daughters with him, and he stopped, and he was like flabbergasted, right? And so we caught. I'm looking at him, and I said, "You all right?" And then he finally said, "Black ice," and he went on to, you know, say, "Man, you know, I quoted you my senior year of high school, and you know, your words helped me get through, you know, this time." And he burst out in tears, right, and fell into a hug. And right then at that moment, no more than 5 minutes before, I was asking myself, what was the point? You know, and it must have been a genuine question. It must have been genuine enough a question, because the universe answered me immediately with this brother who let me know this is the point, right? So when we speak of awards and hardware, as I've gotten older, those things just mean so little to me, you know. And moments like that, moments of absolute confirmation, those are the things that are the real awards or rewards for what we do. You know, like we, you know, poets. You know, Sonia Sanchez said, to be a poet is to be extraordinary and ordinary at the same time. You know, and for me, that's where the award comes in. And so those things, like, of course, the flash and the dash of it and the artist of it. I love being able to say I'm a Tony and Peabody and Emmy Award winning cat, but the real of that, you know, that holds no weight whatsoever over a brother stopping me in the middle of the street and telling me, you know, the things that came through me helped him get through.
Yeah.
That's the award, really. You know.
And I mean, you've been moving people for years. I was blessed enough to see you, and you know, I have to pinch myself a little bit, because you know, we were able to connect, and we've had a couple of conversations, and to be able to pick your brain tonight is something that, you know, a lot of people want to be able to do.
Oh.
And so I'm going to take advantage of that a little bit, a little something, something.
I'm all yours. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, it's an honor. It's always an honor. I'm always tickled, you know, by anybody who feels like, you know, like I know I say stuff and I know I write stuff, but it's always a thing like, damn, you know, I guess people want to hear what I got to say. I guess let's go at it. You know,
Yeah,
you know, I can only be me, so you know,
absolutely.
you know, let's get into it.
So before, and I'm going to take it back, before you decided that you were going to get into poetry, you were more of a visual artist. Talk to me about what that means. Visual artist in what way?
Oh, well, I mean, I've just been an artist all my life. You know, I was never trying to be anything. I never had anything that I wanted to grow up and be. I was always Lamar. Lamar has always been an artist. Visual arts was the first way that came out of me. You know, kindergarten. My art has always been on display, and I don't say that in any braggadocious way. It just is what it is. Kindergarten. My man Albert and I. Albert is still very incredible, phenomenal. Albie art and phenomenal visual artist. We painted a mural on the elementary school wall of dinosaurs, and Albert was tall, so I remember I painted the Stegosaurus and the Triceratops, and he painted the Brontosaurus, and the what's the other joint, the real vicious joint, the not the Triceratops, the rhinoceros,
Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Tyrannosaurus Rex, right. And so, you know, and then, you know, so that was just the first way it came out of me. You know, at a certain point, my elementary school teacher / mom, Miss Brooks, saw that I had a gift of writing, and she told my mom to make me write about everything. And my mom started making me write about everything. But I would draw and write about everything and create comic books. And then, you know, and then, you know, and then at that point, you know, I was always Sideshow Bob, right? So I was always in school plays, and I was never the athlete, but I was always the halftime show. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, I was just always an artist. So visual arts came out of me. It was my first love of art. So I still carry it with me to this day. Right now, I got my, you know, I got my sketchbook, and I doodle, and, you know, at a certain point I was a barber. You know, I'm a barber by trade. I can't say at a certain point I was a barber. I as a teenager, I dived into the trade of barbering, but that was also just another show for me. You know, like being in the barber shop was a stage. You know, you had your wardrobe, the way you moved around a chair, the way you spent the chair around without touching it with your hands. You only touched it with your knees. Like, all of these things were art and a show, because the way your showmanship and the way you moved around a head, also in the way that because I'm also a hell of a barber, you know, master barber, in fact, you know, like it, all of that was an art to me, you know. And then it was a service, you being in service to my brethren, being able to, you know, lift esteem and spirits and all these things. And then also getting my art off, because when a cat get out my chair and walk out, it's like, that's my art piece is on display.
Indeed.
You know? So it was just as much a show. You know, life to me has always been art. You know, I've never tried to be anybody but Lamar. You know, and Lamar has always been an artist. So, you know, yeah, from visual arts. So, you know, I was a dancer at one point. At one point, I was a, you know, religious house dancer. You know, and you know, I was absolutely Philly Houston Hall. You know, like, my name was Finesse at the time. That was my house dance name.
Love it.
You know, me and Spawn Vicious Montez, that runs with Jazzy Jeff, and, you know, Roots Crew. That was my dance partner. You know what I'm saying? Like, we was the dancingest, fightingest cats in the club. You know, so
Not fightingest.
Yeah, you know, that was back then. You know, when you could still fight, you can still fight and go home. You know. So, but yeah, so it's always been art for me. Visual arts has always been a part of it. You know, writing, dancing. I've just always been an artist. You know, and full the way around. I wish I could play music, but it's not my, you know, it's not my skill set. You know, I wish I could sing. You know, but I've never tried too hard. You know, the words and visuals are my thing.
And so I was watching an interview that you did with another woman, and who's extremely talented in what she does. She asked you a couple of questions, and then I went to after I listened to her interview, there was some things that I had questions about, and then I went further, and I actually went to a SoundCloud interview where there was a sound bite.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't long, and the person asked you about the first time you ever did poetry. And what I found so dope about that was that you deliberately did something that was the total opposite of what everybody else was doing
Yeah.
when they came up to present. Talk to me a little bit
Yeah.
about that.
Shout out to Stephanie Renee,
Mm-hmm.
21 pounds stand up. Stephanie Renee, when I first started, shout out to my man Basil, one of my best friends. Without him, there would be, I would not have discovered the part of me that would become Black Ice.
Mm.
I went to, it was Buttermilk. It's called Buttermilk. It was at 29th and Poplar at North Star Bar. Happened like on the third Thursday of every month or something like that. So the first time I went, Cash was doing poetry, and I was like, oh wow, I grew up on that, but I had never seen it live. I grew up on it with my pop, with Last Poets and Gil Scott-Heron and Watch Prophets and Wanda Robinson and Oscar Brown Jr. and Sekou Sundiata and Zora and Nikki and Sonia and all of the great elders, and Pinheiro and all like just I grew up around, under that. My pop was very heavy into that, but as I growing up, it became hip hop, and you kind of forget about that, right? And then I went to my first poetry set. Had to be around, I want to say maybe 23, 24 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, oh shit, I'm working at the barbershop, and I'm the cat in the barbershop with the outstanding, outspoken opinion about shit. You know what I'm saying? I am of the outspoken minority thought, right? But outspoken nonetheless. And so I find this place where everybody is outspoken like I am, and they ill with it. Like Cass is expressing this shit in different ways. Philly. We weren't a poetry community that was a cappella poetry.
Mm.
Like at North Star Bar, DJ Cool Marv spent break beats and instrumentals. So Cass was, spit poetry over instrumentals, like over jazz instrumentals, break beats, classics. So it was different. And so here I'm like, man, here it's Cass out here thinking the way I think and spitting it like this. So I went home and I started writing. It inspired me to write some shit. Like, oh, it gave me another outlet. But I was an MC at 16 years old. So I had never artist all my life. At 16, I had a record out, but then I had, 16, between 16 and 23, you growing into manhood, finding your way. I got to figure out a hustle, cutting hair was that hustle. So that became the thing. And then I found this outlet where I could let that part of my artist out again. Mm-hmm. I started writing, couple joints go by, month or two goes by. I'm at home honing because I knew that I'm jump up on the stage. Mm-hmm. But when I jump up on the stage, it's gonna be just like when I cut a nigga hair. There is no second chance. Ain't no do-overs. It's right now. Either you do it or you don't do it. And so, but the second and the last one, I go and Stephanie Renee does this poem, Look Ma, No Hands. And she did a poem about memorizing, knowing her poems by heart. And I was like, that's what I want to do. Like everybody else is up here with their cute book and, everybody at that point, the trim was to have a little fly book, the flyer, the book. I went to Papyrus and I got me a little fly book with
wow.
I paid $60 for it, and had, because my book had to be flyer than everybody else's book. But then when I seen Stephanie Renee do that joint, Look Mom, no hands, I was like, yeah, fuck a book. I want to do it. I'm gonna do it without no hands and really make it something. And I felt like you could get the word out a little better. And to me, it reminded me of just talking shit at the barbershop, and being able to express yourself. So Yeah, I jumped on stage. My first time I jumped on stage, I deliberately act like I read the first poem out the book, but I actually had it memorized. And then my plan was to throw the book down on the floor after the first poem, because the first poem was like a super sad poem. And then, I threw it down and then went into some, just pure poetry shit. But it was all deliberate, so but again, I'm artist from birth. I'm an artist. So for me, everything has always been about, if your art is going to be on display, there has to be some showmanship and there has to be some quality about it, and when it comes to poetry, it had to be honest and true, right? Like all my favorite poets are exactly who they are on stage, off stage. Shout out to my daughter's my daughter just tuned in, and my man Pete. What's up, big bro?
Hey, baby girl.
But yeah, so yeah, always been sideshow vibe, noob. Just always, always, and I love it. I love to entertain. I love to hold conversation and to build and to learn and to, like I love all these things. So
So now, ice the experience. People have talked about different performances that you've done. I've watched, I think, just about everything that you've probably done in the last 3 weeks. But because I wanted to,
that's a rough,
my niece just
that's a
joined.
rough watch.
No. Well, I think what it is that here's the other thing. When you're talking to an intellectual, you're talking to a conversationalist. You want to really absorb what they're saying if they're good. Like, don't get it twisted now. There's some stuff out there and I'm like, I can't with the freaking psychobabble, But when you have someone like yourself who's talented, who's able to articulate what you mean, what you want to say, it becomes engaging. It's thought provoking. One of the things that, even listening to your entire album, just because there's music on there, it's not like what you were saying was like hip hop, the hibbity bit bit bop. It was some shit. It was something for you to think about, especially even at that time. So, doing songs or being asked to be on albums with other people and representing your art in the way that you do. You did stuff with Pete Rock, you did stuff with, Redman and Method Man. And, I think the part that I always wonder about is stage. Then you show up for something that may be more of an activist type of event. And then you've got music with your voice and your message. Talk to me a little bit about all of those things. Is there a separation? Is it, how do you approach each of these things when you get offered or asked to be a part of them?
I've only been me on stage, on audio, I've had the blessing of being me. I've never had to create a caricature, or an image. It's just more. Black Ice was just a cooler thing to be introduced as than Lamar. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't his hip, but it's all one and the same for me, right? Like as an artist, at a certain point, I wanted to be, as a young MC, I wanted to be Rakim. I wanted to be a hybrid of Rakim and Chuck D. Yeah, like that was like I wanted to be a hybrid of Rakim and Chuck D. And so for me, there was always that, there was always that stipulation that I had to say something. I wanted to say something that moved people the way Chuck moved people, but I wanted to say it with the lyrical prowess of the God. You know, and so they were always one and the same. So when it comes to activism or, you know, things in that sector versus art, all of that's one and the same for me. So my art is activism. So it can be, it's ambidextrous. It can move within, it's hip enough to be enjoyed by the art world, but it's profound and moving and intentional enough in its message to be moved by the activist world. And I think that's probably something innately that I just have to, you know, with a mom like the mom like I got, and the pop like I had, and the uncles and brothers and cousins and family that I have, the amazing, incredible bloodline that I come from. I could never just pop no bullshit.
The Manson men, right?
You know, so yeah, it's all one and the same for me. You know, like it's all activism and art. Art and activism are one, and I'm not saying that it has to be that way for everybody. I am who I am, and everybody is who they are. For me, art, activism, all these things are one and the same for me as a being.
Shout out to Miss Melba Moore who joined the live. So, you know, when you start talking about it being one and the same, and you've got all these amazing opportunities, and you've worked with all of these other amazing artists, why not be a hip hop artist?
I don't know. I don't question it. I've always been me. So if the me that I'm being is not a so-called, but I don't think I'm not a hip hop artist. I'm 51. I'm absolutely hip hop culture. I'm hip hop generations. You know, I've gone through all of the. I was graffiti. I'm a graffiti writer. I'm a visual artist. I'm a dancer. I'm an MC. I'm a poet. You know, like I'm all of the. I'm damn near all of the elements of the culture in itself. So, you know, in the beginning was the word.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Rap is rhythm and poetry. So, you know, being a poet is, you know, like, go listen to Revolution Will Not Be Televised. By the way, Gil Scott-Heron was the first artist that Clive Davis ever signed to Arista Records. Listen to the Revolution Will Not Be Televised and tell me that don't sound like tell me that's not hip hop before hip hop had a name. You know, so, you know, when somebody, you know, anybody asks, you know, why not be a hip hop artist? I am a hip hop artist. You know, it ain't it's a lot out here that is very synonymous with hip hop, because hip hop has permeated, you know, human culture as a whole, and such that it's not much that happens now that doesn't have some aspect of hip hop culture intertwined in it. You know, so
hence the hip hop poet title.
Oh, now, yeah, I mean, you know, people come up with these, people come up with their corny titles all the time.
Oh, that's interesting.
The hip hop poet, the rapper / poet, the whatever. You know what I'm saying? As long as they get it, as long as they get it, you know, people, you know, I one pet peeve is definitely people messing up the titles of my poems, you know, but I get it. You know, people hear what they hear to be a hook and they say, oh, that must be the title, but you know,
but that's that with songs. They do it with, I mean, it's, you know, I always think it's when you care to know, right?
Right.
And you know, a lot of people are so quick. They don't really pay attention. And to me, it's the same way as you misspelling my name. When we start talking about music,
Right.
my song title, or I mean, it's you know, it's I mean, I get it. I try not to take it too personally in the things that I've done. I
Yeah.
recently had someone call me Kimmy, and I was like, nah.
Oh, Kimmy.
Yeah, it's like that sounds like you're calling the dog. Here, Kimmy, Kimmy, Kimmy. Like we're not doing that, right? And their feelings were hurt, and so I couldn't help that. I wasn't apologizing for it, and I think it's the same thought process. It's just like I said.
Oh yeah, no, I don't take. I got pretty leather skin, so I don't take too much.
Yeah,
To
I mean, some things.
things.
I mean, there's some things that will, kind of poke you, right? And those are the things that, you if you have to address, you have to address. Ultra Mag, I see you, brother. But in any event.
I have cats follow me around the department store, for 15 minutes, like coming through the aisle, like, oh. Then they find me, and I'm like, "What's up, bro?" And they're like, "You do something, don't you? You do." I got it. My man, Black Thought, Def Comedy Jam. And
it looks strong and wrong.
And you just like, hey man, so it's all good. It's all
That's good. Hilarious. That is funny. All right, so now a young Black poet walks in a room to see Amari Baraka, Sonia Sanchez, sorry, Nikki Giovanni, Oscar Brown, and Sekou Sundiati, all standing together.
Mm-hmm.
First thought.
Oh, it was the Jedi. It was like the Jedi Master table. Like, first of all, it was the taping. It was during the taping of Def Poetry, and so the green room. The green room was like the who's who of the craft. Like, it was like all-star weekend for poets. So it was that already, and then you got these elders sitting in there at the table, and it's like if there was such thing as poetry royalty, like this was this was it. And so I introduced myself, and they like, "We know who you are," like old heads at the cookout. They're like, "We know who you are," sit down. So I sat down, and I'm sitting down, and I was like waiting to hear like the key to life, right? I was like, "Oh, I'm about to hear it," and they was just in there talking shit about people, and I loved it because I was like, "Oh shit, y'all just like us," like it wasn't. I thought it was some. It was going to be some spiritual moving moment when it was spiritual and it was moving because I found out that these elders were just, we were just the torch carriers to who they were, and they was just, extraordinary and ordinary, at the same time. So yeah, it was a thing. The Def Poetry days were a very, just the experience of being at the taping, the broadcast of the show was one thing, but the experience of being at the taping and the green room and meeting all of these incredible voices, and also being in this space where like we were it, right? The celebrities that came, the special celebrity guests that came were in reverence to us, right? And it was our own little, it was like kind of our own, little thing. It was an incredible experience. I got to, meet so many dope people, so yeah, like I haven't had a bad life. Life's been pretty good.
I ain't mad at that.
I ain't mad at running around talking shit.
Listen, they're normal, right? I mean, I think, anytime you come across people that you have thought so highly of, right? And then you find out like, oh shit, they laugh too.
Oh,
They make jokes too. You know, it's a relief, right? To a
yeah.
certain extent, because you don't feel like you have to be on eggshells. You
Yeah,
know.
but all my homies, I have a quite a few homies that are very, very successful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, superstars, in fact,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm very honored to say that they just regular folk.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're around them, they just regular folk. Like they ain't, you know, they not caught up with nothing. They're not caught up with the hoopla that is made about them around them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so, you know, and I think that also, you know, reminds me of my trajectory, but also reminds me of how I'm supposed to ride out
Mm-hmm.
as I, you know, walk that, you know, travel that trajectory.
Mm-hmm. And now, you know, speaking of some of those friends, you also talked about, you know, not sort of, dealing with a heckler at a show, you know, but I mean, these are shows like, you know, where you are opening for huge acts. You know,
Yeah.
God, you know, who, so while you're able to keep yourself on your toes, right? That experience had to be like just bananas. Please let's talk a little bit about what happened.
Oh man, what city was that? Oh my God, was that Nashville? I think that was Nashville.
And who were you opening up for?
I was opening up for Jill Scott,
Mm-hmm.
and and uh, yeah. So I go out there, and uh, you know, there's always nobody knew I was opening up for Jill. You know, I just would kind of walk out there, and kind of grip the crowd up, and and so after I gripped them up, they was with me, and then I think they was with me, and then somebody in the balcony hollered like, "We want jail," you know, and for some dumb ass reason, I I forgot all stage protocol and was like, all right, you know, and I engaged that person. When I had the whole audience engaged with me, I engaged that person,
Mm.
and so disengaged from the audience, and then tried to make a comedic thing out of it,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't land,
Mm.
right? So I'ma technically say I got booed, but I ain't really get booed. I got like low murmured, you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like
Uh-huh.
it was more like, like we don't know if we like you. And I was like, all right, well, fuck it, let's just get back to the poetry then, right?
Right,
So,
right.
and I just got back into the poetry and the, you know, the rhythm somehow, a cadence that I write with just kind of snake charms people back into the, like, all right, nigga, all right, well, yeah, all right then, yeah, poetry, nigga. But it was definitely like, and it was one of those moments like if you are an artist and you've ever been low murmured, you know what I'm saying, or even booed on stage, how long how long that moment is such a long moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we were on Broadway, and you know, every now and then the Broadway demons would catch us and cats would forget their lines. So we're on Broadway, and it was this poem I did with Stacey Ann Chen. And I would come out, it was about Jam Master Jay and Bob Marley. It was Jam Master Jay got murdered, and we wrote this collab piece. And so uh, uh, I come out on one side, and Stacey Ann comes out on the other side, and I come out, and I say, Jam Master Jay was the man right here. He was standing right here and command your attention. And then Stacey Ann is supposed to come out on the other side and say, Bob Marley was a poet, and boom, boom, boom. But Stacey Ann wasn't at her spot. And so I come out, he's the man right here. He was stand right here and command your attention. And nothing, and nothing, and nothing. laughing, and I looked over to the other side of the stage, and Stacey Ann was not there. Shout out to Stacey Ann Chen, I love you, sis. She was not there. And so then I'm like, Bob Marley was a poet? And because I'm trying to remember her lines. And then she ran out there and she like slid out there as if she was saving the day. And for the rest of the rest of the show, every time I came out on stage, niggas was like, here come this fuck up again. You know. And so, you know, if you ever had those moments on stage, they're beautiful moments because they shock you and shake you back into excellence, right? Because we ain't perfect. You know, we do have huge egos, and when it goes right every time, you know, if you make most of the shots you shoot, that shot you miss gonna fuck with you, you know. Yeah. And so Nashville was definitely like, oh shit, you know, and I think I want to say Bilal was there that night, and I came on stage and Bilal said, "Ooh," he said, "Ooh," he said, "Ma, I know you ain't been booed since '94."
Oh my gosh!
And it was a beautiful thing because it definitely like shook me back into like, oh shit, I'm phoning it in, as they say in theater. You know, when you know you phoning it in, it's just kind of on autopilot. You've done it so much, you know, that it's on autopilot. So yeah, I'm happy to have gotten low murmured.
I'm gonna use that. I gotta use that. Shout out to my brother Pete on the boards who said, "Listen, you only human. Only human. Listen, shit happens, right?" So, and now I want to dig a little deeper.
Sure.
Talk to me about the Manson men, and the bond that you had with your dad.
Right now I'm at my uncle's house. Right, my uncle was, you know, he is now the patriarch of our family. But you know, my father's best friend. My uncle is, you know, the best father I've ever known, next to my granddad. My father is Superman, but his brother is the best father I've ever known.
What up, Unc?
And so yeah, the Manson men, you know, these guys, these men that I was blessed to be reared under. My uncle Steve, who was murdered when I was in the 6th grade, the second oldest of my father's, you know, of the clan, right? Is the clan right here, right?
Wow.
Father, my uncle Al, my grandfather, my uncle Clarence, and my uncle Steve. My uncle Steve was my very first art teacher. He was my very, like, literal, like, I had to call him Mr. Manson in class. Like, my very first art teacher was my uncle. You know, my dad was the oldest. These guys, you know, my grandfather was a gentleman, quintessential grandfather, you know, heavy cat, North Philly, you know, North Philly family, and they just, you know, great men, you know, regular dudes, you know, like hard-working men. My Uncle Steve was an artist. Year I was born, he was in GQ magazine. Probably one of my favorite people ever in life. You know, my Uncle Stomp, my Uncle Clarence, you know, one of the greatest cats I've ever, you know, just good dudes, the toughest cats I've ever known, and the most affectionate cats I've ever known. So I had a very rare wealth, you know, coming up in North Philly. Most of my homies didn't know their dad, you know, or any male role model for that matter. And I had my grandfather, my father, his brothers, amongst a host of other, male role models. I was a boys club kid, but these men, I think it's a very important thing to, I watched my father and my uncles, who were the ultimate men to me, be sons to their father. Like I watched my father be a son. For the very dad that he was, when he got around my grandfather, he was a son. And it's something to see that, to experience that, to grow up in that. And those are my guys. If I can, and they ain't angels, like it wasn't no fairy tale, but they ain't afraid of who they was. They were always accountable. They've always been accountable. They've always owned their shit. And accepted no less from me. We have our standards. My family didn't come up in no domestic. We didn't domestic violence. Abuse of like physical, verbal abuse on females. That's not something that I grew up around or tolerate. But that's because of them. It's walking on the outside of the sidewalk. Holding the door. These things now that even are kind of frowned upon in this new age of things. These are things that are immutable with me because of these cats. So to still, now, absolutely hang out with my aunt, watch games and talk mature man talk, real man talk. Lessons we've learned, and ain't no bullshit with us. It's just always it's been a beautiful thing. My pop, him passing, his transition was life changing. Obviously, I didn't know that we were that physiologically connected. I always thought that as children, we're connected with our mothers, umbilical cord and the womb and all these things, but somehow we have our father's DNA, but we're not connected. As great as we may think they are, and admire them and revere them, and we still not connected in that way. And when my pop passed, my body hurt for months. So but our last conversation was our most beautiful conversation. And so we ain't leave nothing on the table, so it was cool. It was bittersweet. But these my guys. I learned how to lay a suit. I learned how to, my walk is like them. My wit, my sense of humor. Not to say I'm my mom's son as well, but that masculinity, man, that come from the Mansons.
Yeah. And
I know
as you should be. I don't think, first of all, there aren't too many men that have that sort of support system, if you will, whether it be because of a broken home, whether it be because people have just gone and done whatever they wanted to do. And so, there's a blessing in that. And someone just said on here as well, which, yes, we are acknowledging his mom, because his mom pushed him, as he noted earlier.
Yeah. Without question.
Yes.
Linda, Pastor Linda, she's the oracle.
Absolutely.
Right? She was my mom, really, grew 4 young men. My mom had 4 boys, no girls, and grew all 4 of us into our individual selves. She was the one. I moved my pop around 12, 13, but by the time my pop got me, the work had been done. My mom had already brought me out of me. She taught me, she taught me how to act. She taught me how to, she taught me how to hold myself. me and my brothers had finishing school and didn't know we was having finishing school, you know, at home. My mom didn't, you know, she cultured us. She took us to Broadway. She made sure, you know, we weren't dishonest with ourselves by thinking that we could do some shit that we couldn't. You know, she accentuated our gifts and our talents, and she didn't let us, you know, veer off of that. You know, this is where your greatness lies, right here. You know what I'm saying? You know, you can't do everything. That is a lie that the world will tell you to keep you on a hamster wheel. Oh, you can do whatever you want to do. You can't do whatever you want to do. You know,
I love it.
you ain't. You know, no. You Lamar are an artist. You can draw. You can dance. You can act. You can maybe sing. Maybe you can act just a little bit. You probably need some lessons. But you know, you can. It was all these things. You cannot play basketball. That is not your thing. That is your brother's thing. You know what I'm saying? Monte and Tremaine are athletes. You and Kaylin, y'all are artists. And this is where your greatness lies. And so I'm never, ever negating or discounting the me my mom brought out of me. That's all mom. You know, my father, however, and the Manson men, they molded and reared me in such a way that is absolutely priceless and a very rare wealth, and not celebrated enough in this world. So, you know, I will constantly celebrate my mom, but I may over celebrate my father and my uncles because Black men are not celebrated enough.
Listen, you ain't said nothing but a word. Strange Creation 5, thank you for your comment.
Shout out to Emerald Green, the illustrious.
Yes, Pete on the boards. Male camaraderie is so important, and Pete, you are so right. I think that in our generation, you know, I mean, really, Aisha just said it. There is not much of that left. You know, there are so many of us who have had fathers, male and female, male and women, who did not have that camaraderie, who did not have that same spirit, who did not have that same bond. And so when you see it and when you hear someone speak on it, it's refreshing. It's like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? As they say, if you know, you know, you know. And I wanted to speak on that because I know that as a Black man, I'm not a Black man, will never be a Black man. But you as a Black man have experienced things in your life that I will never understand. And so when I asked you that, I wanted you to speak exactly on that in that way, because I think it's important for people to understand that that stuff exists. It's not like it's just not talked about. It's not, like you said, celebrated enough. It's not acknowledged enough, at least where it exists. So I think that, you know, that's really important. Now, you went through a period of depression after your father transitioned, and, you know, you had to kind of settle down and be still for a minute and figure things out. Talk to me about mental health in our community, what you experienced and how you figured out a way, because there's no one right or wrong way. How you figured out, okay, I gotta come up out of this at some point. How do I do this?
Mm. 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 Yeah, you know, my pop passed, and my pop's passing did not send me into a depression. It was very bittersweet, but we didn't leave nothing on the table. Our last conversation was our most beautiful conversation. I knew it was significant. He coded and came to, you know, like he coded the same day that one of my best friends was losing their son. feel like my dad gave me a week just to love on my brother, because a man is supposed to, bury his father. He ain't supposed to bury his son. And I feel like my father gave me a week, like, all right, let me hold out, go love on your brother, and I'll be here, and on the day of my nephew's funeral, that evening when I came home, my pop said goodbye to me. Like, he was literally no tubes, on FaceTime, and he said some very lovingly finite things to me. So it was really bittersweet. My younger brother OD'd on September 11th, 2021, not a month and a half after my father, passed. My pop passed June 27th. So a couple months, almost 2 months after my pop passed, he OD'd. He was supposed to be with me at a show, and I ignored his phone calls. And so I'm not going to go deep into it because I wrote a whole show about it.
Understood.
My father and my brother gifted me probably the most important work, my important artistic work of my life. But yeah, my brother passing sent me into a heavy depression, nightmares, dare I say, suicidal thoughts. And I knew that it was about me making peace with me, but figuring out, my son, my son, Lamar Jr. really helped me through a lot of that. Conversing with my son, him being there, I know I had an anxiety attack one night. It was a quick one. It was lasted maybe 20, 25 minutes where I just could not talk. I didn't know what was going on. I could not talk, and I was crying. And my children, my little babies were there. Effie and Elijah were over, and they were off in their own little world playing. And Lamar noticed me on the sofa, just kind of stuck. So he came and sat by me real gentle, and he's like, he said, "You good?" He said, "You good?" He's like, "You good?" And he talked me through it. And so I have to say, that depression, that bout with depression, my son, being my voice of reason, at that point got me through, saved me, right? And it's real. We grew up in these neighborhoods. We grew up in neighborhoods where it was always a special cat. But before we had all this diagnosis, we just labeled that cat a special cat, and we never got him no help. And it was, it might have been, if you from Philly and you from Germantown, it was Gigolo. Gigolo loved to dance on Shelton Avenue, but Gigolo was autistic. Gigolo needed guidance and help. But our folk were late on the mental health train, on the acknowledgement train, right? So, these things are very real. I dive into a lot of self-help books. What self-help, when I say spiritual books,
Right.
I'm very, I dive into books and do the introspection. I'm always trying to find the better me. I've always been the cat that's trying to find the better me.
Right.
So that brought me out as well, but, at times I had a couple therapy sessions, just to get it out, just to talk, just to, because especially as Black men, as men, as I don't know what that is, some people try to say that, the barbershop is Black man's therapy. No, it ain't. Black men have more mask on at the barbershop than anywhere else. Indeed. Because masculinity is afoot. You know what I'm saying?
So, you gotta let me get myself together. Jesus,
I'm sorry.
No, you good. I didn't expect it. You know what I mean? I think that these sorts of conversations, and you and I have talked, it touches so many different things. The Black man's plight, the lack of, taboo, if you will, when somebody in our community needs help. God forbid you go talk to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And when you said your son said that, that's what got me.
Yeah.
You know, because he knew, he felt it. My dad needs me right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that in itself is a testament to your relationship and how well you've done with him, because he's in tune. You know what
Yeah,
I
and
mean?
it has its ups and
Of
downs. Him
course.
and I are on a
Of course.
we are due a healing moment, my son and I, right now. You know, but I would never not, you know, I could never not acknowledge that, you know, my man, my best man, he got me. You know,
Yes.
he was the one who you know, it was him that I hugged through a lot of that initial pain of my pop passing.
Right.
It was him that I cried with, because it was just him and I, you know, in Amsterdam.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it was him and I that had to get each other through
Right.
that initial hurt, that
Mm-hmm.
initial release, you know, and then also afterwards, you know, when my brother OD'd, you know, I took it real heavy I took it on myself very, very heavily.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it was my son,
Right.
you know, who was able to just be my voice of reason, be a very um a very beautiful reflection of truth, you know, even in the things that I had to own that weren't pretty,
Right.
you know, but you know, and it's and so I, you know, and I still have, you know, I don't, I'm very comfortable with saying I'm not in a depressed state anymore,
Thank God.
but um you know, life be lifing. You
Yes.
know, and I went through some very life-changing things uh, that that I'm able to compartmentalize a lot, but probably put myself into creative mode and into light mode
Mm-hmm.
that I probably have not necessarily uh, immersed myself into enough to have gotten past yet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and maybe this, you know, you know, this new show of mine, Don't Take No Wooden Nickels,
Ah,
which is about that, which is about
yes.
the experience of brotherhood and fatherhood and sonship, and, you know, being impeccable with your word and falling short on that, and not being present and not living your purpose on purpose versus living your purpose on purpose, all told through this story of my father's passing, my father and my brother's passing. Is a show all about them and about us, but in a broader sense, it's about black manhood
Mm-hmm.
and the narrative of black, you know, of black manhood, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and the beautiful, hurtful, uh, honest, you know, um, naked, you know, unforgiving and oft forgiving thing that it is to be, you know, a man in this skin on this planet, in this country,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
and so so yeah, you know, my father and my brother, you know, gifted me a beautiful, beautiful way to heal and to be of service, because I don't want this next artistic offering to be something that's like, oh, the concentration is on selling tickets, and, you know, I really want it to be, I'm going to present it through the mental health sector,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to provide a space and create a space for black men to exhale and breathe heavy and commune with each other and forgive each other and be inspired to make a phone call, to have a conversation, to be themselves, right? We're so indoctrinated in as Black men in this world of performing all the time, having to be something, having to be something in somebody's eyes that gets a report card all the time, that we never, we rarely get to just be. And so I want to create a space that Black men get to enjoy and be inspired by myself and other great artists that are just being, and be inspired to just be, because that is all you need, is to just be, but we're led so far, so far away from that. And so, so my pop and my brother, they gave me this gift. So I hopefully I'll, prayerfully, I'll put it out there and it'll do what it's supposed to do.
Yes. Minnesota Money Boss in the building. Thank you.
What up?
So let me tell you something. You and I, like I said, we've had a couple of conversations. You inspired me to call my brother.
Yeah, I remember that. Give thanks.
Woo! Why you do this to me?
Give thanks.
And so, whatever you're doing in terms of your next project, as it pertains to healing, mental health, all of it. I want to be there. I want to be able to experience it. For those of you who have joined tonight, this was like church. You hear me? This was like church.
Boss lady, that's my daughter.
Yes, your daughter.
Kira, stop writing stuff like that. You ain't gonna make me cry for you.
You know what I mean? She's been beyond grateful for the strong Black man that raised her. I'm loving the openness. Pop is proud. Kara, you got it. Like this is woo. This is love right here, right? This is a connection. This is to everybody that joined. I hope that you really understand the depth of this conversation, the depth of this man, his contributions, not just to the world, but to his family, to his children. He has affected me in a very short period of time getting to know him. Listen, Wooden Nickels, we here for it. This is that Pete. I'm gonna repost this, Pete. All red in the face, high yellow, looking crazy. Yes, I'm definitely gonna repost this. But I just wanted to say that. I see she been letting us know. Listen, listen. I just want to say thank you, number one, for those of you who joined. I think you got a very special moment, a glimpse into the world of the legendary Black Ice, Lamar Manson, who has been gifting us for quite a time now. Don't sleep. Check out his stuff. Support. He is on IG. There are other things on YouTube where you can find him. Stop playing. Stop playing. We gonna get this together, Ice. Whatever I can do to help promote, I have a platform. I'm gonna promote. That this is just like, this is just what it is now. You stuck with me.
Yeah, I'm what is it? St. Louis, Milwaukee, Chicago. I'm joining the Royce Hawkins. We doing a quick little run out the Midwest. St. Louis on the 24th. I believe Milwaukee is the 26th, and then Chicago, we coming to you on the 1st. Us, a live band. I'm sure it's be myself, Emerald Green, the Royce Hawkins. I think Real Talk, Brandon Alexander. There's quite a few people that's going to be joining us. But if you're in those areas on the 24th, 26th, and the 1st, St. Louis, Milwaukee, Chicago, look at my IG page, the Royce Hawkins IG page, Emerald Green's IG page, and you'll see the dates. If you're in those areas, come out, hang out with us. You know, we're going to do some heavy talking. Don't Take No Wood Nickels is on its way. I've been workshopping it and working out the kinks and figuring out also how to formulate it, you know, and how we're going to offer it. But that'll be, you know, that's coming June 2024. We're going to launch it. We're going to debut it during Men's Mental Health Month. You know, and we're going to keep rocking. And, you know, follow me on this social media stuff. You know, I might post 10 things in one day, and then I won't post for another 3 months. I'm trying to be better. You know, I'm trying to care more about that stuff, but I don't. Sorry.
That's all right. I'll be your conduit. You got people on here that's willing to do the work, do the legwork, get it done. We understand. We don't blame you. We don't fault you. Stuff is crazy on here. But I thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Like, this has been, you know, we rap, you know, so you know we rap. This is just how we rap. So I do appreciate the, you know, the energy that we have and the openness. And thanks everybody for listening, you know, and listening to us run our mouths, I guess.
Great conversation. That's what it is. We were being
free flowing. Shout out to Fro Babies, Kanika.
Yes, great page, Fro Babies, by the way. So I am Newbie the Ear Hustler. This is my brother, the legendary Black Ice. Thank you so much for joining us. Stay tuned. There will be more information coming about the Wooden Nickels performance show presentation.
Don't take no wooden nickels.
Don't take no wooden nickels. Let me get it right. Don't take no wooden nickels. That's the name of it. Peace, y'all. We'll talk soon.
All right. Peace.